Hello everyone, Jeff the Green Review here. You may call it mineralization, decomposition, or composting, but no matter what you call it, the end result is the same, organic matter that it can be used to improve soil. Composting is the biological decomposition of organic material into a humus-like substance called compost, which makes minerals more available to the plants. Compost is a very good, slow-release organic fertilizer. Microorganisms, actinomycetes, bacteria, and fungi chemically break down components of organic matter. Macroorganisms such as beetles, centipedes, flies, mites, slugs, snails, and sow-bugs, and worms, to name a few, grind, bite, and chew materials into smaller pieces and digest them. Many plant material residues can be used directly as a soil amendment or broken down first and added afterwards. The more shredded the material is, the faster it will break down. For direct addition, the material should be tilled into the soil as deeply as possible, at least 6 to 8 inches deep. Microorganisms need both nitrogen and carbon in the proper amounts to decay organic material. Most soil amendment materials are low in available nitrogen, so very often nitrogen fertilizer will be needed to be added to the soil at the same time as the raw organic matter. Without additional nitrogen, microorganisms that are decaying the organic matter will consume the available nitrogen in the soil, causing deficiency problems in the plants. The carbon to nitrogen ratio is very important for soil amendments and for making good compost. Nitrogen-rich materials tend to be wet and green, such as grass clippings and kitchen waste. The nitrogen and carbon-rich fall tree leaves, straw, and wood chips has already escaped, so they tend to be dry and brown. A carbon to nitrogen ratio between 25 and 30 parts of carbon to nitrogen, so 25 to 30 parts carbon, 1 part nitrogen, is best for microorganisms, but essentially impossible to maintain during the breakdown of organic matter in the compost pile. In addition to carbon and nitrogen, the microorganisms need plenty of oxygen, water, and a warm temperature. Compost piles need to be mixed occasionally to allow fresh air to reach the decaying material. This large pile here was completely turned over in the last 24 hours. Temperatures between 90 and 140 degrees speed the decomposition. Turning the pile too often reduces the temperature. Not turning often enough doesn't allow enough oxygen into the pile. The compost pile needs to remain damp. If it's too wet, then there won't be enough oxygen in the pores and it will start to smell bad. If it's too dry, the organisms won't grow and decay slows to a halt. You can water it and mix it in to get the air and water back to the proper amounts. A pile 3 by 3 by 3 to 5 by 5 by 5 seems to work best for many homeowners. Many compost bins and frames are available for people who don't want to see a compost pile. If you have a variety of materials to start a compost pile, you can pile them up in layers. Then you mix all the layers to get the brown, green, and added fertilizer layers in contact with each other. Smaller particles decay faster, so shred the materials before adding it. After the initial pile is started, add more material anytime you have it. Mix the pile about once a month in the summer. If you add diseased plant parts, weed plants, or flower heads to your compost, you'll need to make sure the compost pile heats to a very high temperature in that 140 degree range to kill and break down the disease organisms and seeds. Since this is practically impossible in a small backyard compost pile, these materials should not be added to the compost. Some organic materials are available in large quantities, can be mixed directly into vegetable garden and flower bed soils or added to compost piles. The decay of these materials will require extra fertilizer nutrients to be added at the same time, or else any plants growing in those beds may exhibit nutrient deficiency problems. Use the following amounts of fertilizer with these organic materials. Corn cobs, 1 bushel per 50 square feet, plus 1/4 to 1/3 pound of nitrogen. Sawdust, 1 bushel per 50 square feet, plus 1/3 pound of nitrogen. Wood chips, 1 bushel per 50 square feet, plus 1/3 pound of nitrogen. Leaves, 2 bushels per 50 square feet, and 1/10 to 1/4 pound of nitrogen. Manure, 5 pounds per 100 square feet, plus 1 pound of superphosphate. So what's all this mean to me? Tree leaves should be removed from lawns in the fall. They can be shredded with a lawnmower or a leaf vac. The shredded leaves are a very good organic matter that can be spread on flower beds and vegetable gardens or added to a compost pile. Another, what's this mean to me? Recycling your own organic material saves you money. Don't send your lawn clippings and fall leaves away in bags and then spend money to buy mulch, organic fertilizer, or compost in bags. Do what nature does and spread the clippings and leaves on your own landscape. It's a much more organic way to do things. There's also a product called Compost Tea. It's a liquid extract from your compost. There are many recipes to make it. Air pump bubblers may be necessary to keep it from smelling. Don't use animal products in the compost or in the compost tea because E. coli bacteria can be a problem. Don't spray the compost tea on food crops. Research shows inconsistent results when using compost tea, possibly because of the diversity of compost ingredients and the amount of dilution used when making the tea. There are expensive and homemade compost tea makers. To see if compost tea works for you, you must be willing to do a lot of trial and error, experiments with it, and so it may not be worth your while, but if you want to try it, go ahead. As you can see in this compost pile, we have a lot of brown leaves here. Those were added to the pile and mixed in, and there's a lot of other material that's down deeper, and this pile has been turned over several times, so it's really starting to turn into a really nice composted mix that is going to be used in the garden pretty soon. And this is Jeff for the Green Review. Thanks for watching.